What happens when Hollywood's soft-spoken alchemist steps out of the spotlight and onto the witness stand, sworn to pull the curtain on hip-hop's most untouchable mogul? That question electrified the courthouse the moment Terrence Howard's baritone filled the room. Cameras were barred, but word spread like wildfire. The Oscar-nominated star had arrived to swear, under oath, that Sean Diddy Combs once tried to lure him into a late-night creative retreat that was anything but artistic. Howard would claim the bad boy legend angled for an intimate rendezvous, insisted on recording him crooning in a marble-tiled bathroom, and dangled career-changing promises if he'd simply go with the vibe. Now, after years of whispered rumours, hotel suite invitations, studio doors that locked from the outside, a hard drive of mystery reference tracks, Howard was ready to spill everything. Jurors leaned in, pens frozen. The gallery held its breath. Because if even half of what he's about to describe is true, it won't just bruise a brand, it could rewrite the myth of Diddy's empire from platinum triumph to velvet-roped nightmare. But Terrence's opening salvo was only the first fracture. Beneath it lay decades of compromises, cover-ups and dark exchanges waiting to snap wide open. Whispers say the night began with a single, unexpected text. "Come by the penthouse, got something legendary for you." Terrence, fresh off an awards season whirlwind, assumed it was just another studio hang. Yet curiosity tugged, so around 1 a.m. he stepped through mirrored elevator doors into a suite glowing golden blue. Diddy greeted him with an embrace that lingered half a second too long, then poured 2 glasses of champagne so chilled the rims fogged over. Howard would later testify, his voice steady, pausing only to sip water, that the conversation felt rehearsed, like a script Diddy had delivered many times before. First came the flattery. "Your falsetto could change the game, T. People think they know you, but wait till they hear you really sing." Then a promise, a surprise bathroom acoustics session, because, as Diddy allegedly put it, marble tiles turn vocals into pure velvet. Reports claim Terrence laughed it off, until the mogul insisted. Rumours suggest Diddy even produced a handheld recorder from his jacket, flipping the red light on with a flourish and hinting that private takes stay private, unless the artist wants the world to hear them. According to Howard's sworn statement, the vibe darkened when he declined. Diddy's tone shifted from enthusiastic producer to persuasive confidant, murmuring that true art demanded whole self-commitment. He spoke of energy exchange, of chemistry in enclosed spaces, and in a moment, Howard says, chilled him, floated the idea that musical breakthroughs often follow intimate alignment. The subtext felt unmistakable. Terrence claimed he stood, thanked his host, and moved toward the door, but it latched shut with a soft click behind him. For one heartbeat, silence wrapped the room. That tense silence wouldn't last. What Howard alleges happened over the next 10 minutes forms the spine of his testimony, and it's only a fraction of what he says unfolded in the months that followed. But the next revelation would leave even the court's seasoned bailiffs exchanging stunned glances. According to courtroom insiders, Terrence said the atmosphere shifted the instant that soft click sealed the suite. What had looked like an extravagant rehearsal space now felt more like an ornate cage. Diddy's voice, normally buoyant, slid into a hushed register as he gestured toward the Lux Master Bath, its marble surfaces gleaming under recessed lights. He talked about capturing pure resonance, no filters, no noise, just you and the stone. Howard recalled feeling a prickle at the base of his neck. The pitch no longer sounded artistic. It felt personal. Sworn testimony described how Diddy produced an antique-looking voice recorder, the type collectors prize for its warm analog hiss. He allegedly urged Terrence to stand beneath a rainfall showerhead, close his eyes, and pour out that silk falsetto. When Howard hesitated, Diddy offered what Terrence called a trade. Allow the private session and in return receive an executive producer credit on an upcoming Bad Boy soundtrack. "This is legacy stuff, T. Sing one take and the world's yours," the mogul purportedly promised. Rumours suggest Diddy stepped closer, lowering his champagne to brush imaginary lint from Terrence's lapel. Howard testified he could smell a faint mix of expensive cologne and something sharper, maybe tequila. The invitation, he said, grew less coded. Perform the song, share the vibe, then see where the night flows. That's when Terrence claimed he backed away, stating firmly that he came for music, not midnight favours. Reports claim Diddy's smile flattened. He allegedly reminded Howard that powerful tracks sometimes require intimate inspiration. Howard asserted he never sang a note. Instead, he asked for the door to be unlocked. Diddy, after a charged pause, obliged, yet not before tapping the recorder off with noticeable irritation. Terrence walked out to the hallway's muted carpet, heart hammering, knowing he had narrowly sidestepped a minefield. But outside that suite, whispers would swirl for months. Talk of a hidden reel labelled T. Howard Bathroom Takes, of hush offers slipped through intermediaries, of careers boosted or blunted, depending on compliance, and the fallout from refusing that trade. In the weeks after that late-night standoff, Terrence began noticing a strange, almost invisible draft trailing his every step in Hollywood. Casting calls he'd verbally locked suddenly went another way. Producers who'd once texted him daily stopped replying altogether. Rumours suggest certain gatekeepers were quietly cautioned that Howard had become hard to collaborate with. He couldn't prove a blacklist existed, but the absence of proof, he would note on the stand, is exactly how a blacklist survives. Howard testified that one talent agent confessed over lunch that a respected figure had questioned Terrence's professional flexibility. Another source allegedly warned him off probing too deeply, hinting that Bad Boy's reach extended well beyond music. Some reports claim studio executives were offered first-look deals on Diddy-backed soundtracks, contingent on dropping Howard from consideration. If true, it was a masterclass in soft power, no blatant threats, just subtle realignments that left Howard scrambling to keep his calendar filled. Yet it wasn't only career turbulence. According to Howard's testimony, anonymous calls began hitting his publicist's line late at night, calm voices advising him to focus on acting, not accusations. One voicemail, which Terrence says was played for prosecutors, murmured, "Memories can get expensive. Better to let them fade. Lawyers dismiss it as hearsay." Still, jurors reportedly shifted uncomfortably when they heard the recording's hollow static. Friends tried to coax him into shrugging it off. Hollywood politics, they said. But Howard insisted the pattern was too precise. He told the court that each setback felt like a nudge toward public silence, a reminder that confronting powerful people carries a price tag. Ironically, the squeeze only sharpened his resolve. If he had once considered letting the bathroom episode fade into rumour, the whispered retaliation convinced him the story needed daylight. And so, rather than shrink, Terrence started collecting receipts, emails, contract drafts, even random texts, anything that mapped the chilled doorways, because he suspected that without proof, his testimony might be dismissed as sour grapes. But gathering evidence sparked a chain reaction he never expected, one that would bring a surprise ally to his side. Sometimes help arrives from the last place you'd expect, and in Terrence's case it came tucked inside a plain manila envelope, slid beneath his lawyer's door at dawn. Inside was a scuffed USB stick and a post-it that read, "I can't keep this hidden." M court documents later identified M as a former Bad Boy audio engineer, rumoured to have been on payroll for nearly a decade, who vanished from the label's credits 2 years prior. No one knew why he left, but whispers claim he'd grown uneasy with what he called after-hours sessions that felt more like leverage traps than music. The flash drive's contents, Howard testified, were chilling. Time-stamped WAV files marked bathroom vocals, rough mixes labelled Intimate Live Room, and, most damning, an untitled clip featuring Diddy's unmistakable voice praising My Boy T for finally letting go. Howard swore he'd never sung a note that night, suggesting the clip was either manipulated or recorded without his consent in some other setting. For prosecutors, it was a breadcrumb trail. For Diddy's camp, reportedly, a 5-alarm fire. Rumours suggest that within hours of the drive surfacing, cease and desist emails lit up inboxes from New York to Los Angeles. Multiple technicians were quietly approached with lucrative NDAs, according to insiders who spoke off the record. Yet the genie was out. Metadata showed the files were copied and recopied across at least 3 laptops, meaning erasure was nearly impossible. One entertainment lawyer quipped to reporters, "Digital footprints are like wet cement. Step in once and your prints live forever." Terrence's team handed the stick to investigators, triggering a fresh round of subpoenas that reached deep into Bad Boy's vault. Suddenly, Howard wasn't the lone voice against a monolith. He had data, dates, and a disillusioned engineer willing to corroborate. But if you think a single flash drive could crack an empire, wait until the next witness steps forward, bringing a decades-old journal that threatens to rewrite hip-hop history. If the flash drive cracked the first layer of the empire, a weather-beaten leather notebook threatened to blow the vault doors clean off. The diary surfaced through an unlikely courier, Denise D. Vargas, a one-time wardrobe assistant who toured with Bad Boy in the late 90s. She'd stashed the journal in her mother's attic after resigning, claiming she'd needed space from all that midnight madness. When news of Terrence's flash drive evidence hit the tabloids, Dee says she felt an old knot tighten in her chest. 2 weeks later, she stepped into the district attorney's office with the diary cradled like contraband. Inside, investigators found page after page of meticulous pencil entries, set lists, hotel addresses, and cryptic notations that read like warning labels. One 2004 entry mentions, "Tea in suite 702, recorder prepped, must keep bubbly flowing. S says it loosens nerves." Another circles the word bath 3 times, then underlines secure audio. Dee told prosecutors the initials always pointed to Diddy and his preferred target of the night. Sometimes the letters matched rising singers, other times actors with pipes. Every entry, she said, doubled as both itinerary and leverage ledger. Know who was in which room, who drank what, who owed a favour afterward. Defence attorneys call the diary a fan fiction scrapbook, yet handwriting experts authenticated Vargas's cursive. More disturbing, timestamps often align exactly with flight manifests and studio time invoices uncovered during discovery. Howard's legal team argues the overlap proves a long-standing pattern, one that rings eerily close to Terrence's bathroom incident. Even jurors who'd maintained poker faces reportedly exchanged glances when prosecutors projected a scan of those underlined words. Secure audio. With 2 separate records, digital and handwritten, now converging, the prosecution hinted they weren't finished. There was, they teased, one more insider, ready to testify about the price of staying silent. For years, whenever a door clicked shut behind Diddy's VIP guests, Marcus Big Marv Ellis was the one standing outside. 6'5", blazer cut wide across the shoulders, a master keycard dangling from his belt. In court, he'd sit forward, palms resting on knees thick as oak limbs, and tell jurors he'd kept quiet because silence was part of the paycheck. But the flash drive and diary cracked something in him. "If the truth's coming out anyway," he testified, "I'm not leaving my piece out of the puzzle." Ellis explained that Bad Boy's elite suites were rigged with a dual lock system, a standard hotel latch, and a second magnetic bolt controlled by a private keypad only 3 people knew: Diddy, the chief security officer, and Ellis himself. When Terrence stepped into that marble bathroom, Ellis said, the magnet was armed. "It shuts soft, doesn't echo," he noted, "so guests don't realise they're sealed in till they try to leave." His job was to post up in the hallway, headphones in, waiting for a coded buzz on his radio. Open channel 5. That cue meant unlock, escort the guest to an elevator and hand them a gift, often a luxury watch or an unsigned NDA folder, before the shock wore off. The bodyguard claimed he never witnessed overt force, but he'd seen the aftermath: shaken artists clutching swag bags, eyes darting like they'd misplaced something vital, maybe trust, maybe dignity. Asked why he stayed, Ellis lifted his hands. Wasn't just the money. It was believing the myth. Work hard, move up. Turns out the elevator only went down. what pushed him to flip. A hush bonus deposited the night Howard's flash drive hit the news. "Double my salary to keep quiet," he said. "That's when I knew they were scared." He photocopied the new NDA, signed nothing, and walked straight to prosecutors. With Big Marv's testimony, the courtroom map of Diddy's operations finally had walls, doors, and passcodes. The prosecution had built its fortress brick by brick. The flash drives hiss, D. Vargas's looping cursive, Big Marv's keycard codes. Yet a courtroom drama is never won on offense alone. When Diddy's lead counsel, Arthur Axe Remington, rose for cross-examination, the temperature seemed to drop a degree. Remington was famous for dismantling stories by tugging one loose thread until the whole weave puckered, and his steel-rimmed glasses hid a stare that had rattled CEOs twice Terrence's size. He began softly, reminding jurors of Howard's reputation for immersive acting. "Mr. Howard, you once said you can convince yourself of anything to live inside a scene. Could that talent blur memory with imagination?" Terrence answered evenly. "Acting ends when the director calls cut. There was no director in that bathroom." Remington nodded, then flicked to a slide. An old Variety interview where Howard joked about recording vocals in showers while filming Hustle and Flow. The lawyer suggested Terrence had long romanticised bathroom acoustics, perhaps even pitched the idea to Diddy first. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Howard's brow tightened. "That interview was about improvising on set," he clarified, voice low. "Not locked-door sessions at 2 a.m. Next came the big swing. Remington produced what he called a guest waiver, allegedly signed by Howard months before the Penthouse night, authorizing audio and visual documentation during creative meetups. The document's signature looked eerily clean." Terrence stared at it, then at the jury. "I've never seen that form," he said. Prosecutors objected, arguing chain of custody gaps. The judge allowed the exhibit but warned the jury its authenticity was under review. For a moment, momentum tilted. Reporters later wrote they could almost hear the scales creak. If the waiver stood, it might undercut claims of non-consensual recording. If it fell, Remington's credibility could go with it. Howard kept his gaze steady, but one hand gripped the witness box rail so hard his knuckles blanched. As court recessed for lunch, spectators buzzed. Had the defence planted reasonable doubt, or merely a paper mirage waiting to dissolve under scrutiny? Jurors will soon decide whether these pieces fit tightly enough to brand Diddy's empire with a permanent scorch mark. Verdict or not, the testimony already cracks the public facade. The mogul who turned parties into profit now faces questions about what happened when the music stopped and doors quietly locked. It forces an uncomfortable reckoning across the industry. How many creative retreats were really bargaining chips? How often did artists trade voice for safety, melody for silence? And what untold tracks still linger on forgotten hard drives, waiting for their day in court? Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.